Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another historical humans heritage. And today we are looking at UNESCO heritage site of the Antigua Naval Dockyard and related archaeological sites. Such a beautiful name, such a concise one.
Yeah.
I want to visit this place. I've never been to the Caribbean.
The Caribbean man. So
Yeah.
what
So,
this? Oh, go on.
no, you know what I was going to say. So, this is a dockyard created in what is now the country of Antigua and Barbuda in the southeast Caribbean, and it was built by the um, it was built by the British Navy through the use of enslaved Africans as a means of protecting their interests on the island and ensuring the accessibility of the island to the major British warships of the era.
Which, when they say protect their assets, they're talking about the sugar plantations that dominated the island.
Yes,
Yeah.
sugar is the primary source of income coming out of the Caribbean. As such, they're kind of looking to protect that entire plantation economy, let's say.
Yeah,
I don't know how many times we can say the word for what they were doing before we get demonetized.
yeah, they were
Uh,
using unpaid, unwilling labor.
Yeah, they were
yeah.
they were using a early form of internship with no chance of promotion.
Yeah, a lot of.
Yeah,
It's really unfortunate because it is a very beautiful area. It's a very beautiful part of the world, but it just has the dark stain of history.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
and you can't do much about that.
yeah,
You have to acknowledge it, though. That's probably
That,
the single most important thing.
yeah. And so with that,
yeah.
let's look at what they actually built with this labor. So it is a dockyard designed to help protect ships from storms and make repairs. And it is in Georgian style naval architecture, which is a fun way of saying during the reign of the King Georges of England.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Georgian.
that is what Georgian means in terms of English architecture. Just sort of like
Victorian,
how people will
Victoria,
say Elizabethan or Victorian,
Okay.
it refers to the monarchs. In this case, Georges 1 to 3, also known as most of the 18th century.
But one of the things that makes this site so interesting and unique and worthy of these protections is the fact that it's built and put in a really strategic spot. It's built at the confluence of a bunch of natural attributes of the area, where you have a really deep harbor. It is surrounded by hills around the bay. The jagged edges of the coastline protects it from other outside forces, other European powers, protects it from storms. It's a nice protected bay, which is kind of rare to come across natural harbors like that
Oh
are
yeah,
useful.
oh yeah, that is very rare, and that's probably what drew the British to this island in the first place. Additionally, you can see on the island in the architecture of these docks, the British sort of undergoing a bit of a transition period in adapting the architecture that works in England to what is functional in the tropical environment of the Caribbean. Something that can withstand storms, be easily repaired from storms, and also just allow enough airflow to not kill everyone when you put all four walls up.
True.
And
It
you see here the British adapting prototypes that then become proliferated in the rest of the Caribbean. This is kind of the proving ground of, okay, what doesn't work, and then taking the best parts of this and spreading it elsewhere throughout their empire. So that makes it very important because the first time anyone does something is usually the most important time anyone does something.
It's also kind of interesting. So when you look down at the criterion as to why it's being protected, I think one of the cool ones to talk about is criteria number 2, specifically, because one of the things it highlights is the fact that this was a cultural interchange. It was a very diverse and very intermixed area, because you saw cultural traditions coming from the enslaved population that came over from their lands in Africa. You saw the confluence of the British and their style and architecture, but then you also see the emergence of Afro-Caribbean culture.
Yeah, you do get to start seeing some of that, especially given who was being made to build all these things. It is inevitable that that begins to creep in and is eventually able to express itself.
And one of those things, by the way, that you said that they used to adapt to their architecture, one of the ground-breaking inventions that they started implementing were storm shutters.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea that the wind can and will hurt you was a definite novelty for the British.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. Wind should have tried a little harder. Maybe things would have turned out differently.
Yeah.
Moving on to a couple of the other things that are important to look at is its protections. What's keeping this thing safe. And since 1984, it has been protected as a National Parks Act and managed by the National Parks Authority, created by the same act. And it has also received further protections under the Environment Management Bill and a forthcoming new Heritage Act. So there's a lot of little laws and acts that Antigua has been putting in place, specifically on regulating land development, that essentially forbids people from tearing down these walls or building on top of these walls, or basically you can't really mess with what's already there in terms of the environment and the architecture for a lot of things.
Yeah, so it's very well protected in its little harbor.
Yeah, it's got surprising cross sections of just environmental laws as well as historical laws protecting it, just as these islands strive to essentially hold on to their individual character and their natural ecosystems, which is just always fun to see. It's it's like you can't destroy this site because of tree law.
Well, the interesting thing too is the property size is 255 hectares, but the buffer zone is 3,873 hectares.
Which I feel like we're getting close to just saying the island itself at that point.
Yeah.
Because, because how big is Antigua?
Not that big, I'll be honest.
Yeah, 280 square kilometers.
Oof. But yeah, figured that'd be an interesting one to talk about. We don't really talk too much colonial Caribbean, and this is a really interesting one to really bring up.
Oh my god! So you remember? So how big did you say the buffer zone was again? Because I just had the math done.
3,873 hectares.
Okay, so that's little over a tenth of the island. Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah, that's about 10% of Antigua right there.
I'm sure it's not full on buffer, but I'm sure there's a lot more enhanced protections.
Yeah, there's a lot of protection, but that's pretty good. And so 10% of our nation is dedicated to preserving this thing.
And that
I like you, Antigua.
is a good note for us to wrap up. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week in the next video.